There's something happening inside the Cleveland Browns facility that the stat sheets haven't fully captured yet, and I think it's time we talked about it directly. The quarterback competition in Cleveland is no longer really a competition in the traditional sense, not because anyone has made a formal announcement, but because the separation between these two players is becoming visible in the places that matter most to a coaching staff. The film room, the practice field before anyone else arrives, the conversations that happen between reps when coaches are watching everything and saying nothing out loud. I've been digging into the full picture of what Dillon Gabriel's rookie season actually looked like on tape and in the numbers, what Shedeur Sanders has been building quietly on the other side of that equation, and what the media has been doing to this kid's reputation while he's been too busy working to respond. All of it connects. Let me take you through it. Start with Gabriel's numbers, because I think the way they've been discussed in most places has been too gentle. A 59.5% completion rate sounds acceptable in isolation, somewhere in the functional range, nothing alarming on its face. But when you situate that number inside the broader context of the league and look at where it falls among quarterbacks who saw meaningful playing time last season, it lands near the bottom of the chart. That's not a developing player finding his footing. That's a quarterback who struggled to do the foundational things consistently. And the yardage picture is even harder to defend. 937 passing yards across 10 games. Work that out per game and you get under 94 yards. I don't want to be cruel about this because the offensive line situation in Cleveland last year was genuinely difficult, but 94 yards per game is not an offense moving down the field with any purpose. That is an offense treading water and hoping circumstances improve. The touchdown-to-interception ratio, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, is the one number that looks reasonable and that Gabriel's supporters have leaned on when defending his season. And I understand why. On its surface, that ratio suggests good decision-making and ball security. But that surface reading doesn't survive contact with the rest of the evidence, because Gabriel's QBR for the season was 31.4. For those less familiar with that metric, QBR attempts to capture total quarterback contribution across every play, accounting for context that raw stats don't reflect. A 31.4 is not a number that describes a quarterback managing games efficiently and protecting his team from mistakes. It describes a quarterback whose overall impact on what his offense was able to accomplish was sitting near the floor of the entire league. Coaches don't look at that number and feel encouraged. They look at it and start asking hard questions. The Pro Football Focus grade tells the same story from a different angle. A 49.0 overall, ranking him 41st out of 43 quarterbacks evaluated in their system. I want to be fair about the limitations of any single grading methodology because no metric captures everything. But when multiple independent measures are all pointing in the same direction, QBR, completion rate, yards per game, PFF grade, the combined picture becomes difficult to argue against, and the specific breakdown inside that PFF evaluation makes it worse. 3 big-time throws for the entire season. 3. Those are the plays where a quarterback shows you something beyond competence. The anticipation, the arm talent, the willingness to make a difficult throw under real pressure that separates functional quarterbacks from ones you want to build around. 3 of those across 10 games. Meanwhile, 10 turnover-worthy plays. That ratio, 3 positive outlier plays against 10 potential disasters, is not a building block. That is a warning sign. The sack number adds another layer. 19 sacks in limited action is significant, even after you account for the offensive line's deficiencies. Evaluating quarterback performance through the lens of sacks is genuinely complicated because so much depends on protection quality. But protection quality doesn't explain everything. Quarterbacks who feel pressure early, process the field quickly, and move through their reads decisively take fewer sacks even behind bad lines. The ones who hesitate, who hold the ball too long waiting for a preferred throw to develop, who don't feel the rush coming until it's already past the guard. Those quarterbacks take sacks regardless of the line in front of them. 19 in limited action is enough to suggest the hesitation was a real factor, not just bad luck. I want to be clear that none of this is about dismissing what Gabriel accomplished at the college level. because that record is genuinely impressive. UCF, Oklahoma, Oregon. 3 programs operating at different levels of competition and visibility, and he produced at each stop. Over 18,000 collegiate passing yards and 155 touchdowns is a resume that earns your opportunity in the professional game. Nobody who watched his college tape was crazy for thinking he might translate, but the NFL has a specific and well-documented history of exposing the things that college environments allow quarterbacks to hide. The checkdown that becomes automatic under pressure rather than earned through reading coverage. The footwork that works against college pass rushers but breaks down when the timing of the pocket disruption is faster than anything he's experienced. The anticipation windows on intermediate throws that need to be tighter than anything Saturday football demanded. These aren't character flaws. They're developmental gaps that every young quarterback brings into the league to some degree. The difference is what you do about them when they get exposed, and that's where the gap between Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders has been quietly growing into something that the coaching staff can no longer ignore, even if they wanted to. Because while the numbers from last season were being processed and the organizational direction was being determined, one quarterback has been in that building every day doing the invisible work. No cameras capturing it, no media cycle amplifying it. Just the grind, film study, physical preparation, conversations with coaches, the accumulation of daily credibility that you cannot manufacture through reputation or history. Todd Monken sees it. Monken is not a coach who gets sentimental about resumes or prior commitments. He has been direct about his evaluation framework. You earn what you get in this building, and what you earn is determined by what you demonstrate every day, not what you showed last season or what you did in college. The message he delivered about the off-season competition had exactly 0 diplomatic cushioning in it. Nobody has a guaranteed seat. Nobody is owed anything. Show up, work, earn it. The problem for Gabriel's camp, and I say this with genuine acknowledgement that this is uncomfortable territory, is that the daily presence evidence is not competitive right now. Reps are not being divided equally, and Monken has not pretended otherwise. This is the NFL. Resources go to the players who demonstrate they deserve them. When one quarterback is visibly, consistently, daily putting in work and another is not matching that presence, the locker room connects the dots before any official announcement gets made. Teammates see everything. Coaches see everything. The informal hierarchy inside a professional football building gets established through exactly these kinds of daily accumulations, long before any depth chart decision becomes official. And the picture that's being established inside that Cleveland facility right now has a very clear direction to it. I want to talk about Shedeur Sanders directly now because I think the full scope of what he's been dealing with off the field deserves honest examination alongside everything happening between the lines. Before he took a single professional snap, the criticism was already running at full volume. He was called arrogant. He was accused of coasting on his father's name, as though Dillon Sanders' reputation was somehow a substitute for actual performance, rather than an additional burden that made every failure more visible and every success more scrutinized. People who had never spent meaningful time around him were producing character assessments with the confidence of people who had known him for years. The lazy labels came in bulk, entitled image-focused, more interested in the brand than the football, packaged as analysis and distributed through platforms where the volume of a take matters more than its accuracy. And Shedeur's response to all of it was to walk into the building anyway. Early. Every day. Not one press conference devoted to addressing the criticism. Not one social media post firing back at specific accusations. Not one wasted word on the people who were going to think whatever they were going to think regardless of what he demonstrated. Just the work, reps, film, the conversations with coaches that happen before anyone else is around and don't get captured by anything except the trust they gradually build. That kind of discipline in the face of sustained external noise isn't something you can teach into a player who doesn't already have it. It's either there or it isn't. And the fact that the building, coaches and teammates alike, has been responding to what Shedeur is putting in with genuine, unforced enthusiasm tells you it's there. Here's what bothers me about the way the media has handled this situation, and I want to be specific because I think vague criticism of media coverage is too easy. There is a recognizable pattern that emerges when a player starts disrupting comfortable narratives, when the film and the work ethic and the internal credibility are all building toward a conclusion that contradicts the storyline that's already been constructed and invested in. The football arguments get quieter because the tape isn't cooperating, and they get replaced by character arguments. Suddenly, the conversation is no longer about completion percentage or pocket presence or the ability to read a cover 2 shell. Suddenly, it's about who this person is, his attitude, his intentions, his relationship with his own celebrity. A normal workout clip gets analyzed for evidence of something sinister. A straightforward expression of confidence, the same quality every successful quarterback in this league has in abundance, gets reframed as ego that needs to be brought down. I've watched this specific playbook run on enough players over enough years to recognize it immediately now. And the tell is always the same. If the film was genuinely damning, you wouldn't need to attack the person. The tape handles that for you automatically. It always has. When analysts and media personalities shift from football arguments to character arguments, they are telling you, without meaning to, that the football arguments aren't winning anymore. The film on Shedeur Sanders is not cooperating with the narrative that was built around his draft position and his family name and the skepticism that followed him out of Colorado. So the conversation moved somewhere else, to somewhere the tape can't follow, and Shedeur has had the discipline to not get pulled onto that terrain, which has made the whole operation increasingly difficult to sustain. The social media and content ecosystem that covers professional football needs narratives to function. Not necessarily accurate ones. Accurate narratives and engaging narratives are related, but distinct categories. A player disrupting the comfortable order of a quarterback room, arriving with a famous last name and a 5th-round draft position and a confidence level that doesn't match where the league slotted him, is a natural candidate for the role of antagonist. It generates engagement. It creates comment section heat. It keeps the algorithm satisfied. And the individual character of the player at the center of it is largely irrelevant to whether that role gets assigned. It gets assigned based on the storyline needs of the people producing content around the situation. Shedeur walked into Cleveland and immediately became the most interesting figure in that quarterback room. The interesting figure in a story like this almost always gets cast as either the hero or the problem, and the media machine decided early which category was more commercially useful. What I find genuinely interesting, and almost a little ironic, is that the more aggressive the external criticism has been, the stronger Shedeur's internal position has actually become. Every piece of criticism that he absorbs without responding gives the people inside that building more reason to respect him. Every day he shows up and does the work, while the noise is running at full volume outside those walls. The coaches who see it add another data point to their evaluation of his character under pressure. Every time he demonstrates that external validation is not something he requires to stay motivated and focused, he confirms something important about the mental architecture that franchise quarterbacks are built on. The criticism is functioning as an accelerant for exactly the thing it was designed to undermine. I don't think that's the intended outcome for most of the people producing it. Where this all lands is actually pretty straightforward when you set aside everything that isn't directly observable. One quarterback produced numbers last season that created real organizational concern, regardless of the contextual factors around them. One quarterback has been in that building daily, doing work that the coaching staff has noticed and responded to with genuine enthusiasm rather than diplomatic politeness. One quarterback is treating this competition as the most consequential thing in his professional life right now, because it is. One quarterback appears to be waiting for an external development to resolve things in his favor rather than controlling the controllable variables in front of him. That asymmetry in approach, in daily presence, in competitive urgency, in the willingness to do the unglamorous work that never shows up in a highlight package, is the actual story of this quarterback room in Cleveland right now. Everything else is texture. The coaching staff doesn't make these decisions based on what is comfortable or politically convenient. They make them based on what they observe every day inside that building, and they observe everything. The effort gap is real, and it is not subtle, and it has been real and not subtle for long enough that the organizational direction has been shaped by it, whether or not any formal announcement reflects that yet. Shedeur Sanders is not receiving special treatment or political cover, or the benefit of any doubt that isn't fully earned. What he is receiving is the consequence of showing up every day and doing exactly what a quarterback who wants to run an NFL offense is supposed to do. The critics can keep producing content. The media machine can keep running whatever narrative serves its engagement goals. None of it changes what's being built inside that facility, one grinding, invisible, unglamorous day at a time. And at the end of all of this, when the noise has exhausted itself and the decisions get made official, the players who were present and working and earning it every day will be ready. The ones who were waiting for it to fall into place will have run out of time.